Good morning. Welcome back to the Red Mic. Happy Tuesday. Glad you're here. Today's Red Mic message, just scroll by. Don't be that guy. Now, if you've been on social media longer than about 10 minutes, you know this person. The one who doesn't comment when you post a picture of your kid. They don't react when you share something funny. They don't say a word when you post about work, faith, hobbies, life in general. But the minute you say something they don't agree with, bam, danger, danger, warning, warning. Run, Will Robinson, run, because their emergency response is activated. Up they come like Kevin James popping out of that manhole, smiling, confident, and absolutely convinced this is their best moment. You post a sunset, they argue about clouds. You post a sausage you smoked, they debate wood choice. You post a youth football win, they critique the play calling. And heaven forbid you post something political they don't like. Nuclear option. They go nuts. Or they question your Christianity, or they say that you're a bad person, or, they call you a communist or a fascist or some other ist. And, most of us post a mix of stuff, some serious, some light, some personal, some opinion, some political. Yeah. And that's called being a human. But there's a certain personality type that treats your timeline like it's their own personal debate stage, and they happen to have the key to get into the backstage door. They don't want conversation. They don't want context. They want correction. I mean, I got a fraternity brother, great guy, raised a great family. I never hear from him unless I post something political that he doesn't like. And then all of a sudden, there it is. I'm just like, you know what? Shut the heck up, dude. And they always open with the same kind of lines, just asking questions, or I thought you'd want another perspective. Well, actually, you know what? I didn't want any of that. In football, I used to tell my kids, the voices from the stands are not your coaches, which reminds me, Red Mic messages are leadership and life lessons picked up from 25 years as a public servant, 16 years as a youth football coach or scouting volunteer, and 10 years as a mediocre athlete with far more heart than actual physical ability. So I'd tell my kids, the voices from the stands are not your coaches. They're not there to contribute. They're there to react, to scratch an itch, to prove they exist. They don't show up for 99% of your life, and they wait patiently for the one post where they can launch a stealth comment bombing run on your content, and then they disappear again. I've tried really hard to not just block those people, you know, because I don't friend people unless I like them personally, or I've had a history with them, or something positive with our interactions in the past. So I don't get it, you know, particularly on the political stuff. If I see something that somebody posts that I disagree with, I just keep going 99 times out of 100, unless I find it so personally, I mean, not politically, but so personally offensive. Another fraternity brother, different guy. He actually said, and I apologize if this is getting political. I don't mean it that way. It's to make my point. When I mentioned, and I showed a picture of it was 7-Eleven was doing a thing about grab the cup that represents how you voted. And I did. I had the red cup and I posted a picture of it. And he said, basically, I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said, well, you can't be a good Christian and vote for the Mormon. Really? Dude. So I blocked him for a long time. I unblocked him recently, and it's still, a lot of the same knee-jerk crap. And then they just, like I said, they do that strafe bombing run on your comments, and then they disappear again. And, that's why it was it was a recent post. Somebody popped up and vomited all over my feed. In this case, it was only one or two words. I don't remember, but it just hit me the wrong way. And I said, you know what? I am not going to purposefully post anything political or comment on anything political until the end of Lent, maybe longer. And it's not because I don't have opinions. It's not because I'm backing down. And, people who agree with me on a lot of the same political stuff, they'll say, well, you can't do that. You're letting them win. Well, you know what? I've realized that not every disagreement deserves my oxygen. So I'm going to do the radical idea that if something doesn't land for me, I'm going to ignore it on my social media. I'm just going to keep scrolling. And the one that's the hardest, I said this yesterday, the one that's hardest is X because, you're largely anonymous there, even though it says Red Mike Messages and it takes 2 seconds to figure out that Red Mike Messages is done by Patrick Fortner. But not everything requires your commentary. Not every opinion needs your rebuttal. Not every post is a personal invitation to argue. And you claim to be friends with these people, so be a friend. You know these people. You know the type of people they are. So don't fall into that trap. Well, you said this, so you're that kind of ist. Again, communist, fascist, whatever you want to say. Everybody's got their own perspective. Everybody's got their own reasons. And when you try to attach something sinister to it, I think that says as much about you as it does about them. If you want to unfriend or block somebody, do it. But there's no need to announce your departure. It's the internet, not an airport. Silence is free. Scrolling is easy. Maturity is knowing the difference. If you chase every comment, you're going to lose the game plan. If you defend every sentence, you never move the ball. And if you let every digital manhole cover control your temperature, well, most of the time you're going to end up living underground with them. Not every disagreement deserves your oxygen. Leaders know when to engage and when to let something pass without turning it into a thing. The people who only show up to disagree, they are not contributors. They are consumers and creators of conflict. They don't build, they react. Boundaries are not censorship. Choosing to not engage is not weakness, it's discipline. If your only value add is opposition, your value is limited. Real leaders add clarity, context, or calm, not noise. So if you see something you don't like today or tomorrow, you have options. Scroll, mute, move on with your life. And if you can't do that, I think that says more about you than my post ever said about me. And that's today's Red Mike message. Hope you found it interesting or helpful. Please give me a like, a follow, and a share. My thoughts today for Scooter's family. Today would have been Scooter's older brother's birthday. So I'm thinking about them today. And of course, thinking about Scooter. Constant thing. I'll see you again tomorrow. If you haven't voted, early voting is still going on in Texas, so go do it. I love you guys. And until next time, life is short. Drink the bourbon. I'll see you.